So you can get actually a lot tighter control over style. So all the style elements are handled through UI.R. But I think the first time I did this, now I just use UI.R. But the first time I did this, I was frustrated and I wanted a lot more control over the style. So you can actually have a generic HTML file rather than a UI.R function, which means then you get everything you can with HTML. So this link in the notes goes to the HTML needed. What you have to do is just, instead of get rid of your UI.R function and create a directory called www, and in that directory have a file called index.html. And then when you go to this link, it'll show you that basically how you have to just have the inputs labeled in a specific way, and then Shiny will recognize them. And so you just have to have specific JavaScript libraries installed and appropriately name IDs and classes. And this is sort of beyond the scope of this class, but I think for many of the students in the class, things like HTML are and JavaScript are very easy for them. And I think if you're familiar with JavaScript and HTML, and if you've learned this amount of Shiny just from this lecture, then going to have any looking HTML page that you want with Shiny embedded in it should be a relatively minor step. And so you can get it to look however you want then. But just go to this link and follow the conventions that they suggest. Okay, so this is just bare bones intro to Shiny. Some other things you can do: you can upload or download files from Shiny. You can have tabbed main panels. This is all within the standard UI.R function for tabbed main panels. You can have editable data tables. That's neat. You can have dynamic user interfaces. So based on values that you input, it can then show you new controls. You can user-defined inputs and outputs, which is sort of like programming more Shiny functionality. And then you can put a submit button so that Shiny only executes code after the user hits submit, even for the first time. That's covered in the tutorial on Shiny 2 as well. And so how do you distribute a Shiny app? So everything when you run run app on your computer, you're running a little web server, and your browser is going through localhost to that web server and just connecting within your computer. But maybe you want to deploy it on the web. So I'm going to give a little lecture on how to deploy Shiny as a web service. But that's a little bit beyond what most people are going to need to do. The quickest way is just to either put it on Gist or GitHub or Dropbox or whatever, and send someone the app, and then they can call run app and they can run it just like you would in development. That's pretty easy. But it requires and if you really want to be fancy, you can create an R package and create a wrapper that calls run app. But all these solutions, of course, only work if the user that you want to reach knows R. If they don't know R, then this isn't an option. You can run a Shiny server, which of course requires setting up a Shiny server, which the instructions are here. If you know a little bit of Linux server administration, a little bit, not a lot. Certainly I'm no expert, and I managed to do it. Then that goes a long way. You don't need to know a ton. They've made it pretty easy. So probably one of the easy solutions for that is you could run it on a virtual machine where they already have Shiny servers running well. So if you run it on Amazon AWS or something like that, then you might make yourself might make your life a little bit easier if you can find an instance where people have already done it. And of course, you have to have all the ports and everything opened in the right way and all that sort of thing. So anyway, setting up a Shiny server is beyond the scope of this class, but I'll have a lecture where I go through setting one up as a kind of extra material, but it won't be on the quizzes or anything like that. The same lecture, I'll show you how to set up an RStudio server so you can run RStudio from a web browser. There's groups. I think our studio is one of them that's creating Shiny hosting services. So they give you the Shiny server, and you just create the app on their platform, and then they host it. Probably it'll be either a free or a freemium. I mean, most of these things will probably be like freemium services where you get a certain amount free, and then you have to pay for more. I think. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not them. By the way, if you're like me, one of the first things you do when you found Shiny is you tried to extend it kind of ludicrously, and R has this system call where you can call call the for example the Unix terminal. Don't do that, right? So don't put system calls in your code. So it's the first thing everyone who knows what system calls are, and the first thing that they do, because then they can do something really fun with it. But it introduces a lot of security concerns, and it's not really in the intention. Shiny is really for deploying statistics apps, not for running generic server-side scripts with R as the intermediary. Of course, why would it? There's already things to do that. At any rate, that's I would make that point. But of course, if you have your server locked down and you don't care if it crashes, then knock yourself out. But in general, put an ounce of thought about security before you deploy a Shiny app with sort of access to the operating system.